Hello, everybody. It's Adrian Plus here yet again.
Yeah, Bridget, you sound very nice.
I beg your pardon. I deliberately made myself sound nice in order to be nice. People do that, you know. Anyway, it's number 116.
Amazingly.
Maybe it's because it's 116. 116 sounding the shallows. We are doing now. This is number 116. Yeah.
I was thinking the big news for the UK is similar to the big news in our house, isn't it? I mean, the big news in the UK is that it's rained.
That was very good news, I think.
Very good news, yes.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. The big news in our house?
Well, the big news in our house was far from good news. It was a leak.
Yes.
And I was up in the bedroom, and I went to my this is a fascinating story. I went to my wardrobe and I opened the narrow cupboard on the right, which holds my jumpers. You'll be interested to know. But down the bottom there was a pillow and some other cloth, and I suddenly realised they were sopping wet. Which is a terrible thing in furniture and things. Anyway, so we had a leak a while ago in the roof, and I put my hand up on the top of the wardrobe, and it wasn't just damp; it was swimming with water. And I got a towel.
The way you described it, just sort of, several inches deep.
No, seriously, it was running on the top. It wasn't a damp patch. No. And I got a towel and soaked the towel with it and managed to actually clear it up. And of course, we had to contact a friend who's also a builder, and he's going to come and fix it.
He is. I think he's going to replace some slates and sort it out.
Just 2 or 3 slates.
2 or 3 slates.
Which could turn out to be a futile gesture. To get it? Futile.
Yeah, I think everybody will have got it.
But I don't think it will be a futile gesture.
Well,
I think
I
it
hope
will be all
it
right.
won't be very many that we have to replace, but there we are.
So that is big news for us, because we're trying to sell our house, as I think everybody in the universe knows, and you can't sell a house with a leak in it. So there we are.
No. But I think it did make us think yet again, didn't it, about the story of the man who made a hole in the roof to let his friend, or the men rather, the 4 friends who made a hole in the roof,
well, it doesn't take
where
much
Jesus was speaking.
Yeah, it doesn't take much for me to remember that, because it's one of my favourite stories.
But we were
really
thinking, weren't we, about the difference now? I mean...
What if they did that now?
Yeah. I mean, our builder had to climb up through our hatch into the loft to get through
our hatch, yes.
What?
I don't know, it just sounds so funny.
Well, I couldn't think what to call it.
I thought the hatch was much smaller than the builder, but he managed to get out there.
No, but you know what I mean. I mean, you might need building regs now.
Oh, you'd have to get your building regs right.
You'd certainly need to take off some slates, then you'd need to get through the roof felt.
Yeah. And you'd have to mend the plasterboard afterwards.
Yes, you would.
By the time you got down, Jesus would have gone for lunch, so it would have been a bit pointless, really.
Maybe.
But it does mean a lot to me, that story, because it illustrates something that I think is central to anything you really want to do for people, which obviously Jesus is very keen on. There's a sound that I have quoted before, I think, that only Christians make, which goes something like, yeah. And it usually means, yes, I understand what you're saying may mean something to you, but it's actually a bit questionable. And I imagine these 4 men breaking open the roof, coming down to where Jesus is and lowering their friend in front of him, and Jesus saying, a couple of points. First of all, have you paid for the roof? You made a hole in my roof. You're going to mend it? You haven't mended it. Okay, you paid for it? No? Okay. So there's a big queue of people waiting to be healed. I mean, a very long queue. And you have just jumped in, lowered your friend with no thought for anybody else, and expected me to suddenly produce a healing. Well, okay, yeah, fine, okay. Well, I tell you what you do. You take him back up, you pay for the roof to be mended, you go to the end of the queue, Peter will give you a number, and eventually I may be able to help. But right now, I'm sorry, but you've really screwed up. Of course he didn't say that, because what he admired, as he admired in a number of people, if you read the New Testament, was people who were passionate about the people they loved and the people they wanted to do something for, like the centurion and his servant, and the Jairus, the father of the little girl.
And in all those cases, it was desperation, wasn't it, that caused them? I mean, you think of Jairus, you mentioned Jairus. I mean, you know, running into the street, somebody who worked in the temple and kneeling before Jesus and saying, please come and help my little girl. And I mean, little girls didn't have that much value on the whole, but his did, because he loved her. I mean, it's that desperation that makes you do crazy things sometimes, and it is comforting to think that Jesus responds in a way that is maybe a little different to the way that the church always responds. And I was thinking about desperation, you know. It's part of life now, really, for quite a lot of people. I mean, in the UK, and I don't know about in Europe, but our National Health Service is struggling, and people often are becoming desperate for treatment, bewildered why it can't just happen just then. And I mean, we've got things like desperation. I mean, the anxiety I know over a lot of the world is that prices are rising, and I've tried to imagine how hard it is for some people, not everybody, but for some people, to accept handouts, to go to food banks.
Yeah, I guess we don't think about that an awful lot, do we? Going in with your bag and maybe thinking, are they going to judge me, and think, well, probably they've wasted their money, or they're trying to get extra stuff they don't really need, and all that sort of thing.
And I mean, you know, we have yet again terrible news about the number of people who are coming over in small, unsafe boats crossing the English Channel, and I'm sure some of them are cynical, some of them are out for, but so many of them are desperate. Are desperate, and our response to any of these situations is challenging.
Yeah, it is. I think for probably all true believers, but certainly Christians, only people I know about really, to know how to approach things, people, situations, problems. It's not easy, because there are no actual rules in terms of what you do. But I think I mentioned the other day, and it's worth repeating, that there are certain things that have just grown in my life, and I think in yours as well, things that probably are crucial to that kind of decision making about what you do, and they happen to all start with W, which is
yours do. I'll have to have a go at mine. Come on, what were yours?
Coincidence, but the first, I think actually first of all I would put warmth.
Right.
What
were the three that you said? Just say what those three words were.
I would say you have to be warm, wary, and willing.
Warm, wary, and willing.
Yeah. And the warmth is a willingness to, or a ability to give kindness, which I think is one of the most essential things in the universe. Kindness to people who you don't agree with, to people who say things that upset, whatever it is. You don't take your view off a shelf and slam it in their faces. You need warmth. You need to bring something to people that relaxes them enough for you to be able to help. And
there's no doubt, although the way that the Gospels are written, you don't get that warmth, but when you look at the stories, they're full of it, aren't they? They're full of that. You only get that odd little moment where you're told that Jesus' heart went out to somebody, or that he wept, or that you get those little moments. But, you know, what he does is where you get the warmth. And that man being held in front of him, lowered down in front of him, and he will have looked up. And his heart was clearly filled with warmth.
And there are no bespoke solutions. Is what you learn from the way Jesus was. They are all no off the peg solutions. They are all bespoke solutions. They're all things specially made for the person you're with.
So what about wary? Why do you think?
Well, I think it's because of years for us of travelling around the world and travelling through churches and meeting people and seeing things that happen, and just a decision to lean back sometimes and say, I'm not going to jump into this. I'm not going to commit or identify with things that I've seen cause trouble before, or put people into problem areas. So I'm wary of total certainty. I find that very difficult.
I know.
And it's not if the warmth is there, then the wariness doesn't have to be expressed, but it has to be part of the way you look at situations and people.
I was thinking as well, Adrian, we are not supposed to just be doormats, are we? While giving out warmth and respect to people who we maybe don't agree with, we're not supposed to let them walk all over us. That wasn't the Jesus way. He challenged things that were wrong. And so if you come down to something like working in the food bank, you're not, there are times you need to be wary. Yeah. There will be people who will take advantage of it. They can still be dealt with warmth and respect. Yeah. But it is just something that we perhaps don't always allow, that we are supposed to be wary, and wary for ourselves as well, that we can cope, that we are doing, we're maybe in a role where we can function.
Yeah, wary of your own motivation and other things.
Wary of our motivation,
and for those who think that sounds a bit cynical, I would say it's not cynicism. It's a kind of benevolent skepticism, which says, I'm not going to jump. I'm not going to jump. I mean, going back to Jesus, I mean, eventually he was the one who actually said, you can walk all over me up if you want, to Pilate. Because at that particular time, that was what was needed. But at other times, like in the temple with the money changers, he was really quite aggressive with what he did. But
and interestingly, within your list was wary and willing. So wariness means you stop, you look at it, you're just a bit careful, but willing is almost the opposite. I mean, once you've been wary, what your list is saying is you then need to say, like Ananias did, he was wary. He said, are you sure you've got this right, God? I'm not quite sure if we're talking about the same person.
Yeah.
But he was willing.
He was willing. And willingness to do the thing that will help. If you're talking about offering warmth and being a little careful about where you're at with it, with what's being spoken about, and a willingness, if it goes against what you think sometimes, if it goes against what people want, or if it goes against, I don't know, all sorts of things, but a willingness, whatever you think, whatever you are, to do the thing, if it becomes clear that is the right thing to do.
I mean, there was a lot of talk, wasn't there, about the importance of wisdom, and maybe wisdom sort of holds all those things, it sort of wraps round all those things, really. Well, maybe you should add that to your list.
Yeah, well, it's another W, of course.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
But it is. Wisdom is in short supply, I'd say, and I do. To be honest, I often say to God, I really need wisdom. I need something, not a Solomon-like wisdom, but just a bit of a lead into where I should be going with this.
Well, because today, I mean, we had a visit, didn't we, from an old friend of ours who we've known for years and years, and who's moved up north, having been in the south, and who actually for a whole very important chunk of his life was part of a team working with people who've got to the end of their tether and who are desperate. We've been talking about desperation, the desperation of those four friends, the desperation of Jairus. But this time it's people who are desperate to end the pain of being themselves.
Yeah, the most extreme solution.
Yes, yeah.
And someone once said to us, and we repeated this so many times, that if you're going to help people, you need to have one foot on the bank and one in the ditch. And our friend really went out of his way to make that happen, to be strong enough and stable enough for people to feel safe, but able to be also to identify with what was happening with them, and to empathise with.
That's
the
right.
struggles.
I mean, if you apply that list, You know, if you are working with people who are so fragile, there does need to be a care, maybe rather than weariness. There needs to be a need to be careful, do you think? You know, I mean, it could be physically potentially dangerous.
Careful,
But you have your own mental health. You have your own well-being. You may not be able to handle that. Hence the thing about keeping one foot on the...
The particular work he's been doing, I mean, he obviously did it very, very well. But he did say there are always pitfalls. There are always things you have to watch out for. But he was willing to take the risk of being wrong, of failing, and able to go whatever the extra mile, whatever distance that was.
And I was so struck, Adrian, you know, this word warm. I mean, he talked about sometimes the need to sit down on the ground because you're not speaking from a higher position.
That's interesting, isn't it? Actually,
you are listening. And listening means that you are saying, I am on a level with you. It was really interesting listening to it. And I was thinking, you know, a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned tired legs. Do you remember we were talking about Ailish McColgan? I keep not being able to pronounce it.
I think.
McColgan, thank you. But she was saying, you know, her legs were tired. She had tired legs, which meant that she couldn't make her body do any more than it could do. And we've had one or two responses, haven't we? Well, several actually, of people understanding what that feels like. And I mean, in one case, it was a couple who are physically exhausted looking after his mum, who's 97 and pretty much confined to bed. And they do have carers in, but at the same time, because elderly people's, I don't know, minds, behaviour might be a bit unpredictable, it's exhausting. And this person said, you know, because we mentioned about Elijah being given a short break by God, a mini sabbatical. He was given a cake anyway, and just before he had to go off and do the work again. And this person said to us, I'm thinking of the cake, but also of the verse, as your days, so will your strength be, which I thought was interesting, living in the moment, allowing that you find the strength for that day. And there was somebody else, wasn't there, who I know has been working for years. This person said, and I have known this person for some time, said, I think I have tired emotional and spiritual legs. And I just want to thank her for sending this, because it really kind of spoke some of the things I've been feeling. She says, I've been retired from church ministry for some time now, although I still do some work with another church. I've spent my life in teaching and counselling and ministry, and I've always cared so deeply. I really have. She says, but now I can't. Not in the same way. And she says, it's not that I don't at all, but it's as though I put a protective layer around my heart. And that's the bit where I thought, that is so well put. And she says, I don't want to be there. And perhaps because of that, I don't feel like God is there. And she says, I don't want to go into this last stage with a hard heart. So I so hope it's just tired legs. But I tell you what, there are a lot of people around with that protective layer that's grown up around their heart. Well,
because
it reminded us...
You do get so weary sometimes. If, as we believe, there are no unimportant people in the world, the job is a pretty tough one, isn't it, sometimes?
Yes, it is. And it reminded us, I think because we've been thinking about roofs, but also what she said about putting a protective layer around her heart, that there might be times when that's exactly what we need to do for a little while. And you found it, didn't you? It was in Deuteronomy.
Yeah, can I just quickly say what I'd like to say to that person is that perhaps God put the protective layer around her heart.
Absolutely.
And that actually he's saying, just chill a bit, you know, just take it easy. So I've such, and thank you so much for for expressing that. We did. We found a bit in Deuteronomy, which we know by heart, of course. No, we don't really know anything about it. But it's about building a new house. And presumably, when you read it, that they all had flat roofs.
Absolutely.
And what
you
this
can fall off.
piece says is you should make a parapet around your roof so that people won't fall off.
And get hurt.
I think that goes back to the kind of weariness and warmth, kindness and all the other stuff. That you around yourself, you need a parapet. That means you don't fall down, which might mean taking time off or relaxing or whatever.
But it also means a responsibility to sometimes build a parapet round areas where we know people can fall off. I mean, people fall off our churches, don't they?
Yeah, they certainly do.
You know, really, a lot of people fall off. They fall off organised religion. They fall off because maybe God didn't appear in the way they thought he would. You know, we are very vulnerable as people, and one of our roles as Jesus is to look out for people who are vulnerable and are in danger of falling off, and trying to build a little wall around so that they don't, maybe. And I think that does apply to ourselves as well.
Yeah, I think it does. Just very quickly, I remember Paul says somewhere, make real friends of the poor. And that could be poor in spirit or whatever. If you are ministering to people with inverted commas around it, if they get lost, they'll probably use you. If you are making friends with people and not just trying to save them spiritually in some way, you've always got a relationship that can survive even the church. If that's the problem, that's not easy.
No. But when you think about David and the safety that he was in when he was under the shadow of God's wings, safe as houses, King David, yes, and the danger when he was wandering around on that flat roof of his palace,
precisely,
and you know, with nothing to do.
It was the battle season.
Yes.
And and he fell off big time.
He did fall off
and made some big mistakes.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's our little journey along the roof this week.
Yes, it is.
And hopefully our leak will be gone in a week or so.
Oh, yes.
And I do hope you're all surviving. And those with really tired legs, whatever that means, take it easy for a little while. And
God bless.
We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.